This is the notice, and this is the scheduled and notice date and time for the meeting of the Southfield Planning Commission. So we are calling this meeting to order. And just as a side, this meeting is being conducted by way of teleconference. And it is the capital improvement plan presented by the department, presented by departments for the city of Southfield. And with that, Mr. Spence, can we have a roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Culpepper.
Here.
Mr. Huntington.
Present.
Mr. Martin.
Present.
Dr. Stevens-Gunn.
Present.
Mr. Willis.
Here.
And Mr. Griffiths and Ms. Mee are both excused this evening. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum to conduct business.
Thank you so much. Can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
To the chair, this is Mr. Culpepper.
Recognize Mr. Culpepper.
I move that we approve the agenda as therefore written.
We have a second.
Second by Mr. Martin.
Thank you. Mr. Spence, can we have a roll call vote on this?
Yes, sir. Mr. Culpepper.
Yes.
Mr. Huntington.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Dr. Stevens-Gunn.
Yes.
And Mr. Willis.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you have a approval for your agenda this evening.
Thank you so much. And with that, Mr. Spence, I'll turn the agenda over to you.
Hey, sir. So the first item on your agenda is the capital improvement plan presentations. These presentations will be made by the various department heads with regard to physical improvements and equipment purchases that are part of the capital improvement plan for 21-22. And with that, Mr. Crode, were you going to say a few words beforehand?
Yeah, there's a couple slides I'd want to do again, introduction here. You want to talk about the schedule and I'll jump in?
Okay. So with regard to the program itself, there are a number of steps that we take for the approval of the capital improvement plan. So this is actually kind of step two. Step one has been planning staff working with the various departments and department heads to put together their capital improvement plan. So the second step is your Planning Commission long-range study meeting today. Following up on that, we will bring this then before the Council Site Plan Committee on the 19th, which will be this Friday. We'll come back to the Planning Commission in March at a study meeting on the 10th for further review. And then on March 24th for a recommendation to council. From the council standpoint, we'll bring it to a council study April 5th. And then finally, council adoption of the plan on April 12th.
Okay, so I just want to introduce the planning team. Myself, Terry Crode, Planning Director, Jeff Spence, Assistant City Planner, Sarah Mullally, Assistant City Planner, and Kyle Bryce, our planner. All have been involved in various aspects of the update. Sarah's taken the lead as project manager, and all of us will be taking notes and be available to answer questions. Before we get into the department presentations, I just want for the Planning Commission and the audience to say that the capital improvement program is a 6-year period for inclusion in the annual budget of the city. So the first year is the actual budget, and years 2 to 6 are projected by each department on what their capital needs may be for the various improvements within the city. It does not address all capital expenditures, but physical improvements that are permanent in nature and substantial equipment purchases. The Planning Enabling Act requires that the Planning Commission be the leads to make sure that all the departments are working in cooperation with each other. And capital projects include streets, public squares, parks, playgrounds, public ways, ground, and other open space, or any other public building or structure that is constructed or authorized for construction in an area covered by the municipal master plan. And the plan shall be prepared annually and submitted to the legislature in conjunction with their budgeting process. This is also required for redevelopment ready certification. Next slide. And this is just a summary of what basically I said is that it's public structures and improvements within the ensuing 6 years, and each agency or department shall provide its improvements to the Planning Commission with lists, plans, and other estimates of time and cost for those public structures and improvements. Next slide. The last CIP was adopted last year, and a full copy is available through the Planning Department's website. Next slide. And Mr. Spence has gone through the timeline here. Next slide. And we've broken down into about 8 categories: equipment, facilities, water, sewer, stormwater and floodplains, parks and recreation, data management, roads and bridges, and then pedestrian enhancements. Next slide. So before we get into the actual department presentations, I just want to remind the Planning Commission to please limit your questions specific to our land use, planning, and zoning, not necessarily get down into the weeds of the details of what color somebody might be painting a room or what type of piece of equipment that someone's purchasing, unless it has a direct relationship on the planning and development of the city. And with that, next slide, please. We will turn it over to our Department of Public Works and Motor Pool for presentation of various pieces of equipment that is listed here on the slide. Do we have anybody from DPW? Okay, let's go to the next slide. Police Department.
I'm sorry. This is Janessa Edie. Larry is trying to get on.
Okay, we'll come back. We can come back. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. We got Chief Barrett available. Chief Barron, do you want to talk about your mobile command center and some of your other capital needs?
Yes, absolutely. And thanks, Terry, for the introduction, and thank for all who are took the time out to be here. So our first item is the attempt to acquire a new mobile command center. The one that we currently have is outdated and much needed repairs. The importance of a mobile command center in the event of any major incident occurring in our city, or if there's a significant event occurring in our city, the command post allows us to have a information hub to manage critical incidents where there's computers, there's much needed technology, and the joining law enforcement agencies are able to meet in a secure location and develop plans for managing that situation. And so we did some homework on what the average cost of that would be, and we're looking at a $500,000 purchase to get an adequate command center for the city of Southfield. Next here. Moving forward, as relates to equipment, we are looking to purchase a new armored vehicle. Right now we have a vehicle, what we call a general purpose vehicle. Again, it's very outdated. It is actually what I like to describe as an armored vehicle that does not meet the sensitivity needs that I would like for a police department's equipment to have. And what I mean by that our current general purpose vehicle was given to us by a 1033 program years ago, which is a program that the Army gives equipment to police agencies. This equipment is not industry standard. And what I mean by that, there are members of the community who may look at that item as a militarized tank. So it's important for us to get out of that area, that arena of having armored vehicles that are offensive. The Bearcat is what we're looking to purchase, is a law enforcement industry standard armored vehicle. Armored vehicles are very important, particularly in this environment, for responding to armed barricaded suspects, reporting to active shooter situations, because it gives us the ability to move in very close to the suspect or the building to do extractions, if you will, from citizens or police officers who may be pinned down. Many of you who know my history in law enforcement, during my Detroit timeframe, I did spend a number of time managing armed barricaded suspect situations, and the armored vehicle that you see here in the picture is what we had, and it again was very effective in retrieving civilians and police officers who were under fire. And again, I've managed many of those situations. We do need a vehicle that fits our need. So the average cost of a Lincoln Bear, it's called a Bearcat, does run us approximately $300,000. Next, Terry. As many of you know, August of last year, the Southfield Police Department did begin deployment of body cameras to all the officers in our police department. We're very excited about this purchase. It allows us the ability to engage the community, and if there are issues or concerns, we get to go back and look at the video to see if that officer conducted him or herself appropriately. If a police officer was a victim of a crime, we ever to go in and identify who that perpetrator or perpetrators may be. And so this purchase has been very useful, as recent as the other day when I got a complaint, that demeaning complaint and a use of force complaint. But it was this equipment that showed that the officers conducted themselves with professionalism and that the persons lodging the complaint were inaccurate based on video evidence. And so we purchased this equipment. It was a $1.2 million project. It was divided up over a 3-year period to pay for this particular equipment. And as you see on the screen, we're paying roughly $300,000 per year to pay it off. Next, Terry. Ballistic vest, always a standard purchase in the business of policing. We have officers who, after 5 years, their vests will expire. We have new officers joining who will be issued the equipment. There's times when the vest may be damaged. And so it's very important that we have bulletproof vests. And I know that's pretty self-explanatory in this business of policing. But again, $132,000 total price, with $22,000 per year on average, depending on the needs to, again, hire and replace expired vests. And again, this is spread out over a 6-year period. Thank you, Terry. Tasers, again, another industry standard tool, certainly replaces the look, if you will, of using an intermediate device such as a baton. Certainly we still have our batons, but using the tasers in its place gives us the opportunity to subdue active, aggressive behavior suspect without it appearing to be police brutality. Many of you seen the images of police officers use the baton. It does not look pretty, even when it's done appropriately. So the tasers are the industry standard intermediate weapon, been very effective, and actually it's a deterrent. Many times there's suspects who present aggression towards us. The officer will give a warning, take out the taser, and then we don't even have to deploy it because they'll change their position, knowing that the taser will be deployed. In addition to that, it's good to have this intermediate weapon because of, as you saw nationally, times when police officers could have used intermediate weapons such as the tasers, and they did not use it. Bad things happen in the community, and bad things happen for the image of the law enforcement agency. So again, another valuable tool. Purchase price to outfit the police department is listed there. Total of $101,000, $50,000 per year. Next, Terry. In license plates readers, this tool is very effective in identifying stolen vehicles, or if there's a crime committed in the community, we're able to put a license plate in and see if that vehicle was in the vicinity of the crime. So as an example, I was again using my experience in Detroit, where we use license plate readers very effectively. Certainly helps solve crimes. Many of you saw a crime committed on the freeway where a 3-year-old child, innocent child, was in the back seat of a car. There was a road rage incident, and it was license plate reader technology that did allow for officers to identify and arrest the suspect. Without that technology, quite frankly, that case probably would not have been solved. And so the city of Southfield, we are experiencing an uptick, or more of a consistency with stolen vehicles. Certainly with the help of the task force that we have, we're managing those crimes. But this will be, and is, because we still have some right now in our department. We have about 6, if my memory is correct. But this will add to our fleet to ensure that we identify stolen vehicles, 1, arrest perpetrators, 2, return property back to rightful owners. Next. One of my commitments to this police department when I first interviewed for this position was making sure that this police department had adequate equipment, adequate facilities, and also the appropriate workout equipment. And so when you go down to our gym area, a lot of the equipment is outdated. In fact, a lot of this equipment was donated from the public schools to the Southfield Police Department some years ago, and this equipment is roughly late 90s, early 2000s, many of which are again outdated, damaged. So it's time to upgrade our facility as I continue to preach fitness in the Southfield Police Department. And so an estimate of $120,000 to do a complete overhaul of the existing equipment, get us some modern equipment, equipment that I feel will lure the officers into the gym to continue their fitness for this job.
Thank you, Chief. I'm going to ask the Planning Commission to hold any questions, since the first part of your presentation had to do with equipment purchases. We're going to go to Chief Menifee to talk about fire department. And then I know we're going to come back to you, Chief Barron, to talk about some facility upgrades. So I'm going to ask the Planning Commission to hold any questions until after we have the fire department, police department's presentations done, and then we'll open up for questions. Chief Menifee.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Terry. Thank you, our committee, for allowing me to talk to you about the needs of the fire department. The bulk of our equipment revolves around apparatus. So I'd like to give you a snapshot of what our fleet looks like. The city invested a great deal of money into our fleet in 2020. You know, we replaced a lot of vehicles. So there is not a lot that we're going to be asking for in the next 6 years as far as capital improvements for vehicles. But I do want to draw your attention to our Tower 5, command vehicle, the mechanics pickup truck, and a fire investigation van. Now, when we look at replacing a vehicle in our schedule, we do it with emphasis on recommendations from our apparatus division, from the mechanics at our DPW yard. We use national standards where we look at the years of the vehicle. We look at miles on the vehicle. We look at the repair records and history, the warranty, and the ability to have parts. Some vehicles that I currently have, they have to make the parts. So as I move down and show you the vehicles I'm looking to replace, that's the scale we use to replace the vehicles. Now, most questions are always asked, how long does a fire engine stay in service? It should stay in service for 10 years and then 5 years as a backup. A tower truck, we look at 15 years and 5 years as a backup with it. Next slide, please. So when we look at our replacement for our vehicles and what we're currently looking at replace, I'm looking to actually, we have a 2002 tower right now. I'm looking to refurbish the tower right now in the next upcoming budget. We're looking at a rapid response vehicle. This, because of our elderly population getting older, this is a vehicle that will be going out as a pickup, but able to administer care, and we don't have to take the more expensive ladder trucks and engines out to have some citizens assist. Our command center vehicle was 20 years old. We currently, there's some new technology coming out. That's why we've waited, but we want to repurpose, replace our command center vehicle, which will help us a great deal in safety with our command staff. Our fire prevention investigation vehicle is a 2002. Also, it's almost 20 years old. We're looking at, we're going to replace that, as well as look at a basic life support unit. This is, we have our paramedic trucks, but this will be more of a basic truck that will allow us to do something else. As, like I said, our community is getting older. The EMS calls are increasing. We're roughly doing about 13,000 medical calls compared to 2,500 fire calls. So we definitely have to switch emphasis on the EMS over the fire. The 2023 budget, we're looking at replacing the mechanics pickup, which that's a 2003 pickup. So that will be approaching 20 years. We just hired a deputy chief vehicle. We just bought another chief's vehicle, so I'm looking to replace that vehicle also in the 22-23 budget, and then buy another one of those EMS trucks to help out more with the need, the workload that's happening, as well as in 23-24 buy another ladder truck. So that will give us 3 ladder trucks, which by standard with the high rises we have in this buildings, in the buildings in the city. We should have 3 ladder trucks, and that will equip us in the way we need to be equipped. For the 24-25, 25-26, I don't see any future purchases. The 26-27, we have a heavy rescue vehicle that we have our hazmat and high angle rescue structural collapse type of equipment on. I'm looking to replace that in 26-27. Next slide, please.
Chief, Jeff was having some technical difficulties. The next one, if you want to just start talking about, is your medical, fire, and miscellaneous.
Sure. I break it down into, as Terry said, into medical, fire, and miscellaneous. So for the medical side, I'm looking at buying 6 EKG monitors for the engines. I'm eventually going to turn our engines into, right now they're licensed as basic EMT vehicles, and I want to turn them into paramedic engines. And this equipment that I'll need to make that happen. We have a preventative maintenance that's going to happen over the next 5 years. It's 163,000, but it's broken down in the next 5 years. So I always like to let you know that that's there. And the stretchers would go in those basic EMS trucks I talked about, but the stretcher system is like 50,000 a piece. This is the complete system with the stretcher and the hoist that goes inside of the EMS rig. This is automated. It can lift over 700 pounds with the push of a button, which, from what I've learned from risk reduction, has been a very good thing for us to have when we're looking at EMS trucks. As far as fire in the 2020, I'm to buy 20 SCBA. They're self-containing breathing apparatus, our breathing apparatus that we go into fires with. They're called talk boxes that the officers can talk back and forth to one another. Like I said, these are $1,000 a piece, and I'm looking to buy 20 of them. That I'm looking to replace, actually give each set of firefighters with looking at the cancer causing and the way the body absorbs these toxins and so forth, a backup set of fire gear. The total cost would be $224,000. I'm looking to do this over the next 4 years. So it'll be $56,000 a year for the next 4 years in 22, 23, 24, and 25. As Chief Barron mentioned earlier about vests, protective equipment vests, the fire department also now, because of things that happen in the world, we now have to be protected ourselves as firefighters. So this will allow me to keep outfitting the firefighters with protective equipment that they need in case there's a mass casualty or some type of incident that we have to go in or help us assist the PD with. Looking at buying 2 thermal imaging cameras. This will allow the firefighters to see inside through the smoke fires, also for children or something that's lost. The 23, like I said, the fire gear, the thermal cameras. The biggest thing in 23, I'm looking to replace the self-containing breathing apparatus, the air that we breathe into the fires. Our system's coming up that the whole system needs to be updated. The recommendation is that we replace the whole things. We were scheduled to buy bottles, but we'd have to spend a couple $100,000 on bottles. I think it's the right time too, with the manufacturer's recommendation that we replace all our self-containing breathing apparatus. The rest just the fire gears for the rest of the years. Miscellaneous in the equipment in the station. We're going to buy some more laptops for fire prevention. I'm going to try to switch over to all our commercial grade appliances in our kitchens. So I had 5 commercial dishwashers. I'm going to buy a commercial stove. We're going to buy extractors, which are really big wash machines that wash the fire gear. And we're looking to buy 3 treadmills in 22, and we're looking to buy 3 more treadmills in 23. Right now, those are my projections for equipment that I'm going to need in the fire department over the next 5-6 years.
So Chief, we're going to roll right into, Mr. Spence, can you go to slide 22? We're going to go right into fire department facilities. Chief Menifee, and then we'll go back to Chief Barron at the end.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Okay, looking at facilities. Now, what I did is I looked at I know that we had a OHM did an assessment over all of the fire stations. So what I did is I looked at the things that were not brought up to them that I know that will be brought up later in our facilities. But just a recap of our cities and how I look at it. You know, the fire department, a fire station is a direct reflection of the city and how the city's doing. You know, it's a multi-functional building for us. It's a house. It houses our stuff. It's recreation. We run our administrative out of there. We do our storage and maintenance and our equipment. We do training out of there, community education, and limited hazardous material storage. There's also a safe refuge for our citizens in case of emergency. So our buildings are showing decades of wear and tear. And it's essential that we take a proactive approach to replacing the things that in our facilities before they cost us even more money with it. So let's go to the next slide. So just to show you the fire stations where they are. So we have 2 stations that were built in the 60s. We also have 2 stations that were built in the 70s. And then Station 2 on 9 and Beach was built in 1994. But if you take out the one from 1994, I mean, we have a very old fire stations that's had very limited upkeep. But we're averaging 40 years. Our stations are 40 years old on average, and that's something that when we're looking at this and looking what to do, this is it's huge because like I said, our buildings are showing a lot of decades of wear and tear. But I just wanted to give you an idea of how old the stations are. Next slide. Next shot, I just want to show you where the fire stations are located. We have 2 fire stations on 9 Mile. Station 1 is at 9 in Southfield. Station 2 is at 9 in Beach. We have 2 stations on 12 Mile. One's at 12 in Evergreen, and one is on just west of 12 in Telegraph. And then we have our headquarters station next to the high school at 10 in Lasser. Next slide. Okay, so here's what I'm looking at. What our buildings are going to need over the next 5-6 years. So the biggest things that they're going to need is paint, carpet, and the flooring in the fire stations to be upgraded. Those are all 5 stations are going to need those through that. Things I want to add is a key fob system for the doors for security reasons. With that is a fire stations have now become a target. So it's essential to know who we have coming in and out of the buildings and at what times. Something I want to update the buildings for. Also looking to replace the PA system. This is the alerting systems in the stations. They are coming out. The county's coming out with some new software, some new technology. So we've been waiting until all that's in place before we replace the PA systems in the building. As well as Station 1, I want to remodel the kitchen in 2023. As far as Station 2, the regular carpet, flooring, apparatus floor. I would like to build a storage building by Station 2, which is the 9 in Beach Daily. We have a lot of vehicles that we need storage in that we house, and I would look into building, like I said, a storage facility for that. Only other things with that Station 2 is blinds, and I want to update their kitchen also in 2022. The paint, I think, and the replacement in there can wait to 23. Station 3 is my smallest station. It's a 1 bathroom. Four people are normally stationed there, but the normal carpet, replacing the floor, some dorm partitions there, and some blinds. Just some general updating and brightening up of the stations. I think when you have these things, I think the firefighters feel better, the citizens feel better about what they're seeing when they pass a fire station. Station 4, the apparatus floor and some key fobs. That building's considered my newest building, and it doesn't need, I don't think, a whole lot, but some carpet, remodeling of the kitchen, the key fob and the floor. Station 5 headquarters is the normal painting and flooring, some dorm partitions. The biggest thing there, lockers, but a training facility. I currently do not have a training facility. Our training tower is in disarray. I believe, I have to double check, but I believe it's almost been condemned. We're not able to use it for training. We have a lot of different departments come from all over, even outside of the state, that come to our facility to train. I'd like to build and have a proper training center for them, as well as be able to have a boardroom, a staff meeting in a staff room. I'm looking to update the storage room, remodel the front office area, some blinds, and remodel the kitchen area. And in 23, it's just some additional training facilities, updates, and replace the PA system.
Chief, this is Planner Crowd. Thank you. Very informative. Most of what you presented are either equipment purchases or indoor renovations. I guess the one that caught my eye is the storage building in fiscal year 2022. And I would just encourage you that when you have a layout for that storage building, to run it through the planning department, and we'll make a decision if it has to go through planning commission. Because that's a new facility, and we want to make sure that the setbacks and other requirements are met.
Definitely I'll be calling you.
Okay, and with that, I believe Chief Barron has a couple slides to present on his facilities, and then we'll open it to the Planning Commission if they have any questions for either one. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, and thank you again. So moving it back into facilities for the police department, our range, as you see in the photos, is in desperate need of repair, ranging from the floor, the ceilings, the walls. And certainly this is where we, as you all know, come to do our annual qualifications for our police officers to make sure that we're compliant with the state of Michigan's requirements. And so, but again, we're in desperate need of repair in our firearms range. Next slide. And so the equipment that does follow that, we will be looking to acquire some new headsets, a rail system, as you see in the back. The rail system will allow the target to move, meaning the officers would not have the actual target available to them until the button is pushed, and then a target presents itself, and then they will begin to engage the target. And so the ceilings are in need of repair. There's target mounts, all associated equipment. And as you see, we spread these purchases out 2021, 2022 year with a $60,000 purchase for the concrete floor in repair. And then the 2022, 2023, the big purchase of the $230,000 repair for the walls, ceilings, balusters, hanging mounts, and sound protection panels. Thank you, Terry. So when you look at this is an image of our detective bureau and also of our records section. These cubicles are, again, great need of cleanliness. I looked at what it would cost to replace the cubicles, but that was a cost that I didn't think was worthy of spending, mainly because the cubicles that you see are operational. They just in need of some professional cleaning. And so rather than spend money unnecessarily to replace them, we did find a couple options for professional companies who could use the appropriate equipment to get these cubicles back to a new appearance, again, so that our police officers, detectives, and civilian report clerks will have an area that they're sitting at that will reflect professionalism, because these things do reflect morale, retention as well. So we want to get them a good, clean work environment. And to get this done for all the cubicles in the building would cost roughly $20,000. Thank you, Terry.
Okay. Back to the chair. I'm going to ask the Planning Commission to keep their comments specific to land use, planning, and zoning issues. And Chief Barron, if you could go mute until someone asks a question. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may, through the chair, Mr. Searles appears to be on now, so I'm not sure, Terry, if you want to move back to Public Works.
Why don't we have the two police and fire chiefs answer questions first, so that we can let them get back to more important things, and then we'll go back to Mr. Searles.
Okay, thank you.
This is Geraldine Stevens Gunn. To the chair, I have a question.
Go ahead. Can you hear me? Go ahead.
I'd like to know a little bit more about training, the fire training facility that is proposed.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So what we're proposing is a completely new structure. This structure will be built out of storage containers that they come in, that we could have a fire. It's a fire structure that we can burn inside of it. We can do search and rescue. It's a multifaceted building that we can do a lot of things with. Ladder it. We can do fires and stuff. We can actually do some EMS extracting, as well as doing our structural collapse stuff. We currently don't have a training facility that meet our needs with this, as well as we are moving into a fire academy with the Southfield Public Schools, looking at taking young men and women in the 11th grade, and by the time they graduate, they'll be graduating with firefighter and EMS credentials. This all plays a part into that, where they can come over from Southfield A&T and help and use this facility to help, as I like to say, grow our own new firefighters and paramedics.
So you're looking at using locating it near the existing facility?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not sure if you know, we have a technical rescue field behind the station. So if you see the red tower in back of the fire headquarters, it would be behind that. There is some land behind there, is where we would be putting the training center.
Thank you.
So Chief, that would be another item when you have something more definitive as far as layout height and stuff, that you can, make sure you forward it to us so we can do a quick review.
Sure will. Thank you.
To the chair, Commissioner Culpepper,
Go ahead.
few comments. Let me start with Chief Menifee. Chief, let me say this again, as you've heard 2 previous times you've been through us. You put the blueprint down for how to do this. Great job. Let me compliment you on the listing of the equipment that you need is great, because it is stuff that you need to ensure that not only the citizens feel safe, but also that your firefighters have the best and updated equipment to go out to serve the city. So great job on doing that. And going back looking at what was the previous CPI, you're right in line. So again, I think with you upgrading the firehouses, it gives the firefighters a more at-home feeling. It gives them a sense that you care, because you're doing things to improve their life and improve their workplace, since they're there probably more than they're at home. So great job on that. Chief Barron, great job. The mobile command unit, the armored vehicles, and the lasers and the cameras, that gives the city residents a safe feeling that you care about us and you're protecting us. So great job on using your money to get those done. I just got one question, which is a question. The new mobile command unit, mobile command center that you're buying now, that's going to cost $500,000. What are you going to do with the old one that you got? Can you get something from that or do something with that? That's just a question.
Yeah, in working with the city, I would be looking to maybe get a trade-in for it, so that the city could recoup some monies in a proper trade-in.
Okay, great. Overall, great job. Chief Menifee, I'll be remiss not to say this. I understand you've had a lot of COVID-19 cases in your department, and my sympathy goes out to you and your firefighters, and continue to do the job. And thank you very much. Great job, both guys. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll make sure your words get down to the firefighters. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Chair.
This is
Okay, this is
Commissioner
Commissioner Huntington through the chair.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say I think it's important for us to keep up with the new technology in the fire department and the police department. I think these guys are doing a good job in recommending equipment that's going to do that. I think we're creating valuable assets for the city of Southfield. which keep us moving forward in the future. But I think what they have planned here is great for the city of Southfield. Thank you.
Any further questions? Then I would like to add, I parrot everyone comment. I appreciate what you're doing. It looks good. It feels good. But just one question, and that is, it seems that both departments are engaging in some building, and I was really impressed with the focus on exercise and remaining in condition. I would wonder if there are anything you can do to facilitate it, well, to do it jointly, to have a common exercise facility for police and fire, to have an area where you practice through your tower and firing, or just somehow see if there's joint operations that could save us a couple of dollars perhaps.
Yeah, and I'll speak to that as well. And so the plans would be, once the fire department develop that training center, we're going to move forward with a program called the Rescue Task Force. And what the Rescue Task Force is, it's a coordination between police and fire. So I'm going to give you an example. If, for example, we'll say there's an active shooter situation where we have people who are in need of critical emergency care, we'll be able to, with the training that we'll use at this facility, be able to deploy firefighters and police officers into some of the warm zones. So when you look at the zones, you got hot zone where all the activities occurring. We have the warm zone, that cold zone. And so with the training of the Rescue Task Force, firefighters will be able to go into the warm zone and start administering aid to victims and extracting victims. And so we will be using that joint facility to engage in training operations for police and fire. And Johnny, you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I would say just so you know, I mean, I don't, since Chief Barron's been here, I don't believe there's been a week that went by that we didn't talk at least 3-4 times a week. We are committed to the public safety and providing the best possible safety in the state, if not in the country. With this, we collaborate quite a bit. Like I said, we talk, several times a week. And we always are looking at that and looking how we can help each other and how we can, because we both got the same mission, and it's about providing the best service we can for the citizens of this great city. And so we will definitely keep looking at that and keep looking at ways that we can collaborate and combine our services to help provide a better product for our citizens.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much, Jeff, Terry. Any other questions for you?
No, thank you, gentlemen. We have another presentation on Friday.
To the chair.
Finance Committee. Oh, we got one more planning commissioner. Okay, go ahead.
Commissioner Martin, I have several questions. You were talking about the Bearcat vehicle. Is from what I understand, that vehicle was initially developed in 1999. Is there anything newer on the field, or have they updated that model?
Yes. So the Bearcat, and I do have experience with the Bearcat and the Bear. Again, because I did purchase these items while in Detroit. And so to your question, they're constantly updating these equipment based on experiences in the field, based on the needs of the agency. There's equipment that can be added on to it. So yes, the original model is, as you described, does date back, but it's constant upgrades and improvements that are being added on to these vehicles. And when you order a Bear or Bearcat, you provide the manufacturer with specific needs from your particular police agency, and they're able to build those things accordingly. So yes, the technology does continue to improve.
Okay. The the shooting range that you were talking about, you mentioned the walls having cracks and stuff like that. Going back to last summer, there was a situation at Action Impact where someone shot and the bullet went through the wall. You don't have anything to deal with like that, do you?
No, and this is a great question for clarity, and I'm glad you asked that. So the backdrop, if you will, when we're shooting down the range, that is fortified, and that's not even an issue. What we're talking about as far as the presentation is the overall facility. Now, we do need to replace, of course, the damage done by rounds hitting the wall, but it is not similar to what happened in Action Impact. Totally different circumstances, as that won't happen the way this is designed.
Okay. I didn't think so, but I just, to be sure, I had to ask a question. For both you and Chief Menifee, you both have female officers? Do you have facilities to separate the male from the female officers, or is that necessary? It seemed that we brought that up at a prior capital improvement meeting.
All right, and I'll start since I'm already unmuted. And so, yes, we have separate locker rooms for male and female, and we're able to navigate without any issues as it relates to that. In fact, we do have a number of female police officers, supervisors and police officers, and civilian members of the police department who do utilize that locker room space. But it is separate. It is in very good condition, and there's no issues at this time.
As far as the fire department, we have 3 stations that have separate facilities: Stations 2, Station 4, and Station 5. Stations 1 and 3 do not have separate locker room or bathroom facilities.
Okay. I'm not going to ask how that works out. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Again, are there any further questions? And if not, Commissioner Martin, I didn't mean to overlook you the last time, so I'm not sure. I don't think we have questions.
No, that's all right. And I want to thank you both very much for the time and information.
So to Chief Barron and Chief Menifee, thank you. Please coordinate with Sarah about Friday's presentation. I'm going to try to do an abbreviated presentation with you guys available for questions only. And with that, Mr. Spence, we go back to slide 10, I believe. And we'll let Mr. Searles go on before we go to Mr. Macrina.
Hello, Commission. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Ours is a little bit abbreviated compared to police and fires. Right now, what we're looking at for the coming year is buying a couple, 2 DPW supervisor vehicles. These are 4x4 pickups that will come with the plumbing and front plow. If we get in an emergency, everyone kind of plows. The miscellaneous equipment, we're looking at a street and highway salt spreader. We're bringing in 3 more dump trucks. We need 1 more spreader to make them, fully capable to plow. We're looking for a new Vector truck in streets and highway. That is what we use to clean the storm sewer. It does everything, cleans the pipes, cleans the manholes. The water department needs a new backhoe. We've pulled some of these you might have seen before, but we pulled them just because we could stretch the life, the backhoe being one of them. We have listed on there a DPW trailer. That trailer is going to be job specific. We're going to set it up for concrete repairs so we can do a more efficient job of fixing manholes and catch basins throughout the city. Both departments will use that. We're looking to replace the water department push camera. It's been a great tool. The residents sometimes are in what do I do? You can't see in the sewer pipes. It's nice to have that push camera. Helps solve a lot of issues without digging. The fuel system that needs to be upgraded again. We're looking at getting some new hoist in the motor pool. Just replacing some of the olders. We don't replace them all at once. So there's some hoist coming in and out every couple of years. Sign shop applicator. We need a new machine for painting lines, whether it be for parking lots or inside the building, handicap spots and stuff on our property. Traffic engineering is getting a new utility truck. This is the truck that would set signposts, pull signposts out, all the repairs that we need to make on hit or installation for street signs. We do have some police vehicles. We don't have a complete list of what's coming and going, but there will be some replacement of police vehicles. Like I previously said, Streets and Highways getting 3 new dump trucks and 1 van. The van's a utility van. It does everything from mailboxes. It goes out on guardrails. The dump trucks are what they are. They do ditching and stuff in the ditching and grading in the summer. They plow snow in the winter. Water department's getting in 1 new dump truck, 2 pickup trucks, and 3 vans. The pickups and vans are our utility crews. Vans are for meter reading, for misdig. The pickups are for dress up type jobs, stuff where you can put the tools in an open bed. And I think that is all we have.
Okay, back through the chair, just again, want to remind the Planning Commission that most of these are vehicle and other apparatus, and to try to focus your questions on any land use, planning, and zoning implications.
To the chair, Commissioner Culpepper.
Go ahead.
Just a question. I see, and I guess great job because you are purchasing a lot of vehicles. So I'm assuming you have enough heavy-duty trucks currently in your stable to take care of the snow and the other items that's needed to ensure that the city is cleaned and done properly. Because again, as I say, great job because you're not spending a lot of money in purchasing equipment. So I'm assuming you got enough heavy-duty equipment already on hand?
Yes, we do. And you see that we're buying 3 dump trucks this year. We actually, because our revenues were a little bit tight, we pushed a couple of these dump truck purchases off. So we have 2 older trucks that I can't wait to replace. They're not as reliable as we wish they were. But the short answer to that question is yes. We've been able to keep our equipment on the road being productive.
All right, great job. That's the answer we want to hear. Thank you, Chair.
This is Geraldine to the chair.
Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you very much. The 2 snow plows just went down my street as I'm sitting here looking at them. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent.
Any further questions? No further questions, Mr. Crowe?
Nope, thank you, Larry. Mr. Spence, if you can go to slide 32 for Mr. Macrina's presentation of facilities. All right, Mr. Macrina, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Commission. Thank you, Planner Crode. I think in my next slide, I talk about 2020 being a lost year as far as facility maintenance. And there is some truth in that. COVID really knocked us off our plan. As you know, it's already been referenced by Chief Menifee, but there was an extensive comprehensive facility needs assessment by OHM advisors. It provided us with a lot of great information. I believe the commission has a complete copy of that. If not, I'll make sure that does happen. But unfortunately, we've not been able to move forward on that because of COVID. But what I would like to do is share some things that we have done because they've come up on an emergency basis. And I think they are important improvements, necessary improvements as well. First of all, I'm talking about our customer employee barriers. We have installed some of the better quality and best looking customer employee barriers that I've seen in any building, public or private. It is to the point where someone with COVID could literally walk through our city hall and very likely not expose any of our employees, at least. I think that's important because people who come to our city as customers come once, but our employees are here all day, every day, and they could be exposed more extensively. So when we reopen to, quote, normal service, which will still be with COVID to some degree, we will absolutely be ready. That is probably at least $200,000 of improvements. And the nice thing is the improvements actually improve the security and appearance of our operations as well. They made it possible for us to use the rear doors to the public service building for code enforcement, something we've not been able to do. We've taken some crowding away from the counter. That's good at the front counter at public services. So that's a great improvement. Another, this is, I don't want to say it's ironic, funny, but maybe it is. We have a new elevator inspector from the state of Michigan. And you know the saying, the new broom finds old dirt. Well, first thing he said when he walked into our public safety building was, look at that escalator is not in use. You can't have that there. And he's right. Our old inspector had kind of let it slide a blind eye, but right is right. And we are not permitted to maintain an escalator for use as a staircase. It's not configured properly. It's not safe to do that. We've been doing that for years. We looked at the cost of repairing, and it was astronomical. Not only that, but because of the 24 nature of the building, we would probably be running that 24 hours. And escalators use a huge amount of electricity. The maintenance cost on an escalator is 3 or 4 times that of an elevator. So what we have decided to do is to replace the escalators with stairs. We had the first meeting with the engineering firm today. They're planning it out. Fortunately, there was another building that's designed exactly like our police station, same plans in Warren, and they have stairs. So we are going to be looking at that as a guide for what we're going to do. But that is another expenditure that came up as an emergency basis. The third thing is our campus security in general. We have been the victim of graffiti more than once recently, and it at least gives the appearance that we do not have control over our campus, and that's a serious problem. Part of the way we're remedying that is with enhanced camera systems that will allow us to see what comes and goes through both our exits and entrances onto Evergreen Road, and just keep an eye on the facility in general. We're also improving some of our access for safety for employees as far as buildings. So those are 3 pretty large expenditures that came up. We did not anticipate them. We responded dynamically. I do want to mention those. If we go to the next slide, please. Well,
John,
I did update that slide.
we may not have gotten them in time.
Actually, it was by the deadline, but that's okay.
Okay.
I can certainly just speak to it then.
Yeah, if you don't mind, we'll make sure they're included for Friday's presentation.
Thanks, I really appreciate it. The problem is, we're now 3 years into our expenditures as recommended by OHM, and not only do the expenditures add up simply from year to year, but maintenance costs or repair costs can increase because things that should have been repaired 1 or 2 years ago were not, and now there's more of a problem, maybe more replacement, less repairs. So very much so, we have gotten to the point where we have to have some decisions made. And I'm not talking about do we stay on campus or leave, nothing like that. But the reality is we have more needs than we have funds to move on right now. And if we don't prioritize those needs, we could end up repairing or improving things that when we're all done, we realize are less vital to our operations than other needs in other departments. So I believe the Planning Commission could certainly have an aspect or a part in that, and definitely council. These are the big decisions that elected officials need to weigh in on. But until we do that, we're not moving forward on our facilities in general. Are we addressing emergency needs? Yes. Are we repairing our systems? Yes. Here's I just have a list of the most recent temperature service repairs. We're moving forward, but in that way, we're really just treadmilling. We're just staying in place. And we need to make some decisions regarding long-term strategic investments. And that's really what I'm stressing. COVID, I think, really knocked us off our game in relation to that. We responded to some immediate needs. I think we did a great job responding to those immediate needs, but we need to look at the long-term needs, and that's what strategic planning is for. And that's where I think it's going to take more than just facility maintenance to decide where money needs to be spent. It's going to need to take consideration of where money needs to come from, bonding, all sorts of options that need to be contemplated that really will involve the Planning Commission and elected officials, I believe. It's kind of a shame that we lost 2020 as far as overall planning, but it did allow us to focus on some emergency needs. One of the things that would have been in a slide I want to mention is we do need, no matter what we do, we need to replace some roofs at the historic burg. If we don't, we're going to be endangering our buildings. The only strategic request or the only repair included in strategic plans that we will be moving forward on this year was repairing the roof at the pro shop at the Beechwoods. And reason is the same there. If we don't do that, we risk damaging the building as a whole. I'm sorry I didn't have the whole slides to present. I think that would have been more helpful, but I'm certainly willing to answer any questions that come up.
Any questions?
To the chair, this is Mr. Culpepper.
Go ahead.
John, let me say this. I agree with you. This has been a bad year for everyone. But let me say from your administrative point of view, I think you've done a great job in the administration building. You called it customer barriers. I call it plexiglass. But as many as you have up in there to make sure everyone is safe, the optics are good. It's friendly. It's not offensive. And unfortunately, I've been over here a lot. It doesn't set you off when you walk in there and see all your customer barriers up. Yeah, it is brother friendly. And the biggest thing I think that you've done up there is you added those cameras. I think that was something that should have been done, wasn't talked about some time ago, but now you can see who comes and goes. And if anyone is out there deflaming our buildings, whatever, you got a snapshot. So overall, I think you done a great job in that, and I appreciate it. So, thank you. Thank you, Chair. That's all.
To the chair, Commissioner Martin, I do have a question.
Go ahead.
One of the things that police chief mentioned was cleaning and sanitizing the cubicles. I'm just wondering, with the COVID, is there any sanitation that goes on for the COVID virus right now in all the offices?
I think that is an excellent question. Through the chair, if I could respond.
Yes, you may.
Facility maintenance has two sides, the janitorial side and the skilled trade side. The janitorial side has actually responded to COVID as much or more than the skilled trades. First of all, we have transferred an employee to simply wiping down contact points with appropriate solution. The second thing that we've done is long before we closed, long before COVID was contemplated or discussed or even in at least that we know was there, facility maintenance ordered electrostatic cleaning machines. That it's better than just spraying chemicals around. These are actually, these electrically charged chemicals are actually drawn to a surface, the top of the surface, the side of the surface, the bottom of the surface. We have appropriate chemicals that kill COVID. Our employees were all specifically trained on how to apply them safely. I mean, it takes a full body suit. It takes, because these are strong chemicals. It takes breathing protection. It takes eye protection and gloves. We have to keep our other employees out of areas for at least 2 hours. Anything that's uncovered of a food nature or utensils have to be washed or disposed of. And that is generally in response to any type of exposure. So if an office here says, wow, we just sent someone home because they had a family member who was positive for COVID, that night, facility maintenance will spray that area. We call it a deep clean. And by the time everyone comes in the next day, the only evidence of someone being there will be that any papers left out will be a little wrinkly. And there'll be signs telling our employees to dispose or wash any food items or utensils. So yes, we are actually very, very proactive or reactive in that regard. But it's the appropriate response. And I am very proud of our facility maintenance workers. They're often our lowest paid employees, but they are the ones stepping up and doing this. And it's really enhanced what we expect from them. And they are absolutely stepping up to it. That was a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, and as I said, the only reason it came up is because Chief Bear said that he needed the cubicles cleaned and sanitized, and the sanitation came right up with COVID to my mind. Thank you very much.
All right, sir.
This is Geraldine Gunn, to the chair. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, John, I heard your concern regarding strategic planning for some of the items that you have on your list. I am uncertain. Mr. Crotos warned us very much so about the kinds of questions that we're asking. However, is there a mechanism, or can you work with someone to develop a mechanism so that the prioritizing of those critical issues can be done so that they won't be incidents of emergencies? I guess I'm really concerned about that.
Absolutely. I think that is a valid concern. As I mentioned, I know COVID-19 threw us all off our game in that regard a little bit. We became focused on some immediate needs, but we are elected officials are operating very smoothly in a remote environment. And I know that the city administrator, Fred Zorn, is considering this a priority as far as working with council and coming to some answers there. And these are, as you said, these are very big answers. They're not, well, do we do the roof or not? It's do we do the roof, or do we do in relation to this project or that project? It's a big process. I understand that.
Any further questions? Hearing no questions, Mr. Crowe.
All right, thank you, Mr. Macrina.
Thank you.
Our next topic is water and sewer. I don't know if Mr. Searles is going to take this or somebody else.
Terry, pretty much everything that's going on in this water and sewer is going to be discussed by Lee a little bit later in the roads. If you want me to name the projects or just get it away.
Yeah. Why don't we just go to the next slide, Jeff? And if you want to just touch, either you or Lee could touch upon these projects real quickly.
Lee, do you want to get this?
Yeah, the water and sewer projects, you'll see a lot of the same projects on the water sewer slides as the road slides. This map really covers several upcoming years of projects, and the road slide, I kind of focused the map or the list on projects that we expect to move forward this construction season. But this one, we have several neighborhood projects that we're going in and upgrading the water supply system, which really just entails replacing what's existing. Some actual upgrades are going from 6-inch mains to 8-inch mains, which is our current minimum size water main for public distribution. And all these projects have some level of road rehabilitation. And then since we've got this section map up, in section 24 and 25, we still have a few phases of sewer separation where we have combined sewers. These areas will remain combined sewer districts at the end of the project, but the actual pipes available for the properties will be separating the sanitary flow and the storm flow. All that flow ends up out in 10 Mile into a big interceptor pipe that carries both sewage and storm, but this offers a higher level of protection against basement backups for these combined areas that are more vulnerable for basement backups during large events.
Would you like us to go to roads and bridges, Lee?
Yeah, that'd be great.
One more slide, Jeff. Thank you.
So like I said on this slide, I really just listed here the projects that we expect to move forward in 2021. The next slide actually has a map, but these roads, section 35, phase 2, you can go back to the list, please. That's one of the neighborhood projects that also has water main, but we have a few major road projects that do not have utilities, so they are not going to be reflected on the water slides. And that's the Beach Road Rehabilitation Project, and that's the entire stretch of beach from 8 Mile to 10 Mile. And we've got 9 Mile Road between Evergreen and northbound Northwestern Service Drive. It's another heavy rehab project. And Green Tree South is one of our neighborhood projects. And then the Road Commission is moving forward 12 Mile between Lasser and Evergreen. That is going to be a total road reconstruction. And all of the Road Commission's roads in Southfield, we participate in the share of the project that's not federal. We split that with the Road Commission for Oakland County. So we have a significant monetary match for that 12 Mile project. And then MDOT has a big Telegraph Road project all the way down from Grand River to just north of 8 Mile. Obviously, Southfield's part in this is pretty small in the grand scheme of their project, but this Telegraph and 8 Mile interchange, they're going to be redesigning the way that the ramps work here. They're converting that interchange to it's called a diverging diamond interchange, and it's going to be the state of Michigan's first non-freeway diverging diamond geometrics in the state of Michigan. So that will be nice to see. Go to the next slide. And yeah, there you go. So for this is just our upcoming projects. The construction years beyond 2021 are mostly tentative. This map is also available on the city's website. In the CIP, we certainly, for some of these projects that we just have in black as future, we've lumped them into specific fiscal years in the CIP. But for the neighborhood projects, we don't always necessarily have the funding secured this far in advance. So they're definitely on our radar. We know we've got work to do there. We just need to make sure that we have the funds in place to move those projects forward when we want to. Most of the major road projects that you see have federal funds available, and those funds are specific to a fiscal year. So those can be expected to move forward in that fiscal year. Sometimes they can be pushed out one more year, but generally, if it says it's a 2022 project, it's generally going to be completed in 2022. And I'm available for any questions.
So if the planning commission has any questions on the water, roads or bridges, this would be appropriate time to ask them.
To the chair, Commissioner Culpepper.
Go ahead, Commissioner Culpepper.
Question, Lee, good job as always. I know you're prepared for the backlash that comes when the roads are not well or properly, but you do a great job as always. And just be prepared for your Green Tree project. I'm quite sure you'll get a lot of calls on that when that project starts from your neighbors. But overall, good job and continue the great work. Thank you. That's all, Chair.
Any further questions? Okay, I have no comment. Mr. Crowe.
Thanks, Lee. I don't know if you're going to stick around for the stormwater or some of the other items, but just weigh in as you see fit. I believe Brandy's on. She might start the stormwater and flood plains, Brandy.
Yep. Oh, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brandy Slachek. I'm the city's stormwater manager. I'm here to talk about the stormwater system in the city. You know, typically when you think about stormwater on a property, you think about water flowing off into storm drains, into pipes that eventually get to the river system. But over the last several years, we've been thinking of different ways of treating stormwater on site and treating for water quality as well as water quantity, which we've done in the past. So we've done actually a really good job of doing this on city-owned properties, but this needs to be incorporated into all of the projects that we're doing in the future. In fact, Eagle, the state, is requiring that stormwater be treated for quality as well as quantity as part of their new stormwater regulations. So this can be done by implementing green infrastructure and treating, stormwater on site with best management practices such as, rain gardens, bioswales, those non-traditional ways to treat stormwater. So just a quick background of kind of where we're moving forward with stormwater these days. And then I have a few projects coming up over the next couple years. The first one actually is currently out to bid right now, the Tamarack Tamarack Basin and River Restoration Project, which was funded by an EPA Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grant. The design for that project was funded this past year and a half. And so those are completed. We've gotten permits through the state. So that's done and we're out to bid for the construction portion of that. So that should begin in April, hopefully April or early spring this year. We're looking at going to council with that project in March sometime. And that would include this property, if you're not familiar, it's just south of Lawrence Tech off of 10 Mile. It's a large regional detention basin that really has not been maintained since it's been put in. And so all the stormwater that comes into that system, all the stormwater from like the city center area, city hall area comes to that basin to be treated. So that will be restored and more functioning sort of as a wetland. And then we'll be doing a river restoration project downstream of that will incorporate improvements for habitat for fish and wildlife. So that is fully funded by Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grant as well, in upwards of $2 million with no match requirement, which is great. And then the other project I was going to talk about was we have currently got a green infrastructure grant through the U.S. Forestry Service. This is another Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grant. It was gotten through our Alliance of Rouge Communities watershed group. So there's other parts of this grant, not just Southfield receiving the money, but we'll be receiving 100 trees with this grant, and also replanting one of the bioswales at Beechwoods and incorporating a new rain garden or bioswale on the city hall property. That location is to be determined. That grant, I think, is probably going to go to council sometime this spring, and that grant runs through 2022. So we've got some time on that. And then also I just want to mention, we're always looking for stream bank money for stream bank erosion projects. We do have this beach road erosion lift station project that we've kind of been on the books for the last couple of years. We've got a permit through the state for that. We're looking at trying to do that in-house through DPW. The last few years, it's been kind of difficult with the weather not allowing us to do it. So we're hoping to get that done in this next year, hopefully. So I think that's kind of all I have. Those highlights some of the projects we've got going on. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Commissioners, any questions?
Commissioner Culp again.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Not a question, but Randy, you got another one of those tough jobs that you get a lot of feedback. But let me say to you that we as a commissioner is trying to help you with when projects come forward. We are pushing that they do some green spaces and bioswales in some of the work they're doing around their area. So we are trying to add as much help we can to help you with your stormwater. So continue the great job and thank you.
Well, that's great. I mean, thanks for pushing that. I know Terry's really good at pushing that as well. It not only protects water quality, it also, looks good when it's done right, and
Yeah,
it provides a benefit.
Yeah, we got a commissioner, Mr. Huntington, that pushes that quite often with the green space. So whenever that comes up, we as a committee doing it, but he definitely pushes that very strong. So we're trying to help you out. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
All
Yeah.
right. Bye-bye.
This is Geraldine Gunn.
Go ahead.
I'm the newest member on the commission, so this is the first time I've had an opportunity to participate in the capital improvement program review. I'd like to commend you and your team for all of the grants. That's impressive, very, very impressive. In my professional background, I know how competitive it can be. So I just wanted to acknowledge you and to share that with your team of how impressed I am with the amount of grant resources you all been able to secure.
Thanks. That's probably one of the most difficult thing with stormwater is that we really don't have a dedicated funding source. It's hard to get a stormwater utility passed through the state of Michigan these days. Although I know we're working on legislation that would potentially allow that to make it easier for communities. It's been going on for a while, but still on the radar. Hopefully one of these days that'll get through the legislator and we'll be able to actually maybe implement a utility so we don't have to get grants for all of the stuff. But I enjoy going out and getting grants, and it's always exciting that, you know, when we do find money for projects that we want to do, and especially the Tamarack Basin project. This one's been going on for years, and, you know, we've never been able to find a significant amount of funding for that, and I'm super excited for that to be happening this year. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any further questions? Mr. Martin?
No question.
Okay. Mr. Crowe?
No, I think, thank you, Brandy. I think we can move to our Parks and Recreation presentation. Ms. Fields, our Park and Rec Director, is on the line, I believe. And I'll turn it over to her. Hello, Ms. Fields. I see you're on.
So,
Mr. Spence?
Yes.
I'm not hearing Ms. Fields.
Yeah, I do see that her mic
I'm on the
goes
phone.
back and forth on mute.
I'm on the phone. I'm on the phone with them, and they're having some technical difficulties in connecting.
Okay, how about we move on to the next section. We'll come back to them when they join us.
Okay. I'm thinking maybe you just try calling in on the number.
Right. But if you wouldn't mind, Sarah, following up with them on that, and we'll go to data management systems while we're trying to get connected. I see Renee. Is Renee on?
Yes, Terry, how you doing?
Good. Next slide. Go ahead, Renee.
Good afternoon, distinguished members. So in technology services, we have three core competencies: availability of resources, uptime, and security. And those are basically the three focuses that we do. The first one is INET, our institutional network, is what we use to interconnect all our buildings with fiber, coming back as a redundant fiber ring going around the city with connecting all the firehouses, all the buildings that are not on our main campus are connected through fiber back to the main campus. So historically, about 20 years ago, we went in halvesies with Comcast to build out a INET, and then back in 2015, they kind of said, "Hey, you guys can have it up until 2021 October, and after that, you're on your own." So we sent this out to RFP, and it's coming back, and we're looking about that's what we're looking to be spending for the total of 20 years. It's probably going to be total about $2 million or so. But that's 20 years. That's the life of the new fiber that's going to replace that. The UPSs, that's our battery backups. So if we lose power to the building, even just for a split second, it does not take down any of our servers or our cluster that we're in. So that's after 5 years, those UPSs have to be replaced, and we haven't replaced this big one in about 15 years now. The batteries get old. We do maintenance on those and refresh those batteries, but the main cabinets are getting old and long in the tooth, so they're coming up to need to be replaced. That's also scheduled for this year, for this current fiscal year, but we'll still have some residuals carry across the next couple years on that. Firewall, we're looking at replacing our firewall this year also, because we're coming up to our June 22nd, 2022 must replace the firewall because of end of support. Next slide. So the computers and data center replacements, if we split those up separately, the data center, we're paying for $130,000 annually for up until 23, 24. And then our data center should be completed on finance completely for the replacement. And the computers, it's $100,000 annually as we go on, replacing computers as they break or as they get old on a continuous basis. A new item this year is the police fleet technology replacement. That's $240,000. It's a one-time cost to replace all the aging laptops and printers that are inside the police vehicles that support the officers on the street. And the ERP, which is our Eden financial system replacement, those wheels are already in motion with the BSNA finance replacement, which is going to be a little bit slightly less than that total price tag there. Next slide. Oh, back one. Document management system. We're in the residual portion of that investment, so now we're just on the annual maintenance. And core switch replacements. Those are up on the horizon. We just replaced all our switches, and 23, 24 would be about the timing of when we would have to replace the switches again, either due to age or end of end of life, end of support situations. And then the gig phones, we should be coming close. Yeah, we still spend just a little bit, but that's spread out through the couple of years on replacing desktop phones, which might even become less now that I've actually rearranged our licenses. So we're going to be able to use software phones, so we won't have to rely on hardware as much. And I think that concludes my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question, Commissioner Huntington, through the chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, you mentioned the UPS interruptible power supply system. You say every 5 years it should be replaced. You're basing that just on the amount of years that we have it, or is it based on how much is actually being used?
It's actually based on battery capacity. If you look at the picture in the slide, that's our battery rack. The first cabinet is all the hardware, the electronics, and the fan, power supplies that maintain the other 3 cabinets full of batteries. Those batteries have they do wear out. Even though they sit there, they're getting charged and discharged continuously with the through the cabinet, the main computer cabinet. Well, the UPS cabinet that's actually the power supplies and power regulators, because they actually still feed our computers, our servers, our data center is fed off of that power bank there. And power goes into there, and then it drains out, feeding our computers as a continuous thing. So if the power gets cut, we still have power coming out of the batteries. So those batteries are being cycled continuously 24/7 as long as our servers are running. And they end up wearing out after so much time. Sometimes it's onesies and twosies, and after a while, they say they only guarantee them as like 5 years for the batteries. And some of these batteries we've stretched out quite a bit, but they actually wear out and they become non-functioning. Sometimes they'll heat up and swell, and could cause a fire.
Okay. Thank you for that info.
Any further questions? Any other questions?
Chair, Commissioner Culpepper.
Mr. Culpepper, go ahead.
No question, but Renee, thanks a lot for the presentation. And again, do whatever it takes to make sure that technology stays up and the systems are flowing properly. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Renee, I do have a question, and that is, you mentioned the cost, $2 million over the next 20 years, I believe, to maintain the cable between buildings that you had purchased in cooperation with Comcast. How much are your costs today?
Today they are zero because we already own the fiber.
Okay.
So we entered into an agreement with Comcast around 2015 when they wanted to take all that fiber away from us. And we entered an agreement and said, hey, we paid for half of this back in 2000 with you. And Comcast agreed that we did pay for half of it. So they said they'll let us use it for the next, I think it was 5 or 6 years. I think that would put it at 6 years without any charge. And after that, we would have to negotiate a price with them.
So Comcast is increasing our budget, I guess, another $100,000 a year.
Well, it's actually not going to be Comcast as a vendor.
Okay.
They did not submit a bid, and the vendor that is going to be winning this contract. Did submit a bid, and they were way under what the other two vendors submitted.
Okay, okay. Who is that vendor?
I'm not sure if I can say at this moment because we haven't really
Okay,
taken this to council or anything like that.
I was just curious. It's not that important. I do thank you though.
To the chair, Commissioner Martin.
Go ahead.
Is the fiber optics, is that for hardwire fiber optics going from facility to facility, and you're doing the bid to have that installed? Is that what it is?
Yes, it has to be replaced. That the fiber that's running those between the buildings that was installed back in 2000 with Comcast is old. It's actually past its warranted life.
Yeah.
That the manufacturers warranty their fiber for.
Will there be any cost? Go ahead.
So there'd be we run a more higher risk of having outages with those fiber strands getting older.
Will there be any cost to have? I assume that you're running the cable, the fiber optic system on existing either poles or in underground tubing. Is that correct?
Yes, it'll get the whoever we pick is going to have right of way usage. So they're going to be
cost for usage after it's installed.
After it's installed, we have that maintenance cost. That's it.
Maintenance. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any further questions, commissioners? I have no further questions. Mr. Crowe?
Yep, thank you, Renee. Again, just please be available Friday in case there's any questions. And if Ms. Fields has joined us, we can go back to the beginning of the Parks and Recreation presentation.
Can you hear me, Terry?
Yes, thank you.
We can hear you.
That's a beautiful thing. Thank you. Hello, everyone, to the Planning Commission and to the rest of our Southfield team. I'm here to give you some information, share some information with you on Parks and Recreation and our department. For those of you who have served on the Planning Commission, this is a familiar slide. I just changed the pictures. Basically, it's just reminding you of all the space sites that Parks and Recreation is responsible for. Just a reminder of our parkland of close to 775 acres. We do have 33 sites throughout our city. We have a 9-hole golf course and a driving range, the sports arena that we have, along with the outdoor pool, Beachwoods Recreation Center that has been recently renovated here in the last year and a half, 2 years. And then we have some historical properties. I know that John Macrina talked a little bit about the Berg site earlier. Miller Barn over at Inglenook Park, the Code House, and of course the Mary Thompson Farm. Our nature preserve land, Carpenter Lake and Valley-Woods Nature Preserve. We have some space there of about 333 acres within the city. And then of course our 2 cemeteries that we're responsible for. Next slide, please. Thanks. So Parks and Recreation has gone without a great deal of capital improvements over the last 10 to 15 years. So as we move forward, everything seems to be important, right? So we have a decision making based on a couple of things: our mission statement, philosophy, and of course our resident needs. And when we break that down, we start out always with safety. Safety being lighting, our sidewalks and pathways being ADA accessible, security cameras in our parks and our facilities. One of the most important focal points for us is playground equipment, and of course our parking lots and signage and wayfinding. Next is our events and our programs, right? What we do. So we've had some conversations with our planning department. We've taken a look at some preliminary designs, but really taking a look at our front lawn and redesigning that front lawn to make it ADA accessible. You certainly can get around the property, but coming from Evergreen Boulevard and crossing the property to come up to City Hall steps, that's what we're talking about. So being able to navigate the space and the footprint that much more easily. Of course, large event needs for an outdoor stage replacement is in the future. And always, we can't do what we do without having really great partnerships. And with those partnerships comes events that other folks would like to do with us. So whether it be 5K walks or large concert events like we do with the county, with the Rhythm and Rhymes, all of those events are focuses that we do with other people, and it's really important. And of course, our basketball programs. We definitely have a need for basketball courts. And then lastly is our service delivery needs and what we hear from our users. So last category was basketball. This category is basketball. There is a great desire for that. The feedback has been consistent since I've come on board, and especially here in the last year to 2 years. Always you'll hear planning department and all of us talk about our pathways and our nature trails and our sidewalks. Playground equipment replacement is crucial. I'll talk about that in just a couple minutes. Our health and wellness activities and events. Cemetery software. We have done some administrative work kind of archaically in the last 20, 25 years with our cemeteries. So we're looking at purchasing some cemetery software. And then lastly here is tennis court repair. Whether it be resurfacing or repairs, that's definitely a priority for us. Next slide, please. You've heard several of us talk about, obviously, COVID and what that has done not only to our community, our state, and our nation, but here closer to home for all of us is how we do business and where we're doing our business. So we have not been able to move forward with some of our projects last year. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the projects that we have here in 2021 that are underway. Civic Center Playground is one of our largest playgrounds. It's here on campus. We've got a large shelter and a small shelter there. It's our busiest. And so we're looking at specs right now and getting ready to put out bids for the replacement of that playground equipment. Freeway Park. Freeway Park is one of our parks over off of Greenfield and 96 there. 696, and that is always struggling with lighting. Since I've been here the last 4 years, it's a constant battle with replacement. And so what we did is have some folks work with us, some electrical specialists come in and talk to us about not just replacing the bulbs, but replacing the ballasts and taking a look at new workings there. So they are under order right now, should be in the next 3 weeks. And so we'll have brand new lighting over at Freeway Park. You've heard me talk in the past about Miller Park and Sims Park. Both of those parks house tennis courts and basketball courts. And so we're looking at court renovations at both of those sites. You'll hear more about that and probably see some progress here in spring and early summer. Cemetery software is crucial right now. We have a lot of documents on paper, and so currently we're digitizing all of that, but we really need to be able to have software so that when folks come to buy a cemetery plot or we have funerals, we have the deeds to the lots and the plots. We need to be able to have that all on computer software and in a process that is seamless and gives us information quickly. So we've done some investigation. We have certainly gone through the demo and settled on a company. We've worked with our finance department as well. And so we're moving forward on purchasing that software. We need to replace a deck over at Carpenter Lake Fishing Pier. If you've been out to Carpenter Lake, it's beautiful, right? We've got some trails out there. We've got what people are calling the rock garden there. It's been the home of our fishing derby in the past, but we do need to replace the deck out there. And of course, talked earlier about our tennis courts. We've got tennis courts here at Civic Center. We've got them over at Beechwoods. And so we really want to take a look at whether or not we need to or can repair them or we need to resurface. Tennis is popular, outdoor sports, right? Our parks never been busier. So we really need to pay attention to the repair of those courts, and we're underway with that. And of course, we're in the process right now of the Beechwoods Master Plan. Here in the last couple of years, you know that we closed the Beechwoods Golf Course. We've brought in OHM, who is a company that is doing our Beechwoods Master Plan and working with our, putting together some focus groups, reaching out, and what's really important is that we have community engagement. And my biggest ask for that Beechwoods Master Plan is that it reflects the needs and desires of our residents. And so we're underway with that, and you'll be hearing more information about that undertaking. It should be completed by May, and they'll be making a presentation to our council. And then I want to talk a little bit about going through the whole 5 years for each and every park site. You wouldn't last, you'd fall asleep, and I don't want to take that much time, but I do think it's important to be able to highlight what our 2-year projection is, because it shows some initiatives. First and foremost is our playground replacement and refurbishment for the next 21, 22, and then 22, 23. So we've got Freeway Park listed under 20, 21, 22, Stratford Woods, and Seminole Park. For 22, 23, we've got Sims, Bedford Woods, and Beechwoods. Following that year will be Inglenook. We will, of course, have replaced our equipment here at Civic Center. So we've got 12 playgrounds that have playground equipment. So we definitely see that as a priority for us, and we'll be moving forward with that. Beechwoods Master Plan, there's nothing more frustrating for a community than to do a master plan and then not see anything. So we have put some dollars aside as phase 2 of part of the Beechwoods Master Plan. I can tell you from my desk and what has been coming to me as suggestions range the gamut. It's anywhere from a splash pad to more picnic shelters. A dog park has come up, walking trails, a nature nook, if you will, not a huge facility, but some sort of nature area. So we're really looking forward to moving on Beechwoods and seeing what we can do out there. It's important to have connectivity. It's over 80 acres there, and so we're really looking forward to hearing from our community. I've got on here bird park fencing that needs attention, and of course I wanted to include the continuation of our tennis court repair and then lighting enhancements at all our parks. But right now I've included Sims Park here as a priority. So that's us in a nutshell a little bit. I would love to entertain any questions that you have. I know that I haven't listed every single park here, but you need to know that we certainly are taking a look at all of them and are addressing each and every one of them in our capital needs going forward. But I definitely would love to answer any questions that you might have, and I appreciate your time.
To the chair, Tony Martin, I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Martin.
How you doing, Terry?
Good, how are you?
All right.
Good.
You mentioned cemeteries. I assume one of the cemeteries is on Civic Center Drive, just east of Telegraph.
Yes.
Where is the other one located?
It's over by Lasher.
The one on okay, because it doesn't have a sign. I kind of figured that was it, but I just Wanted to be sure.
You know what? I think you got me on the spot a little bit, but I think it's Pioneer and Lasser.
You think? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you on that.
Pioneer Cemetery, off of Lasser.
Okay, all right. I assume that your software is so that you can track the plaster and that, and who's in what, as required by the state.
Yes, yeah, and the other part of it is also, sir, is we get requests for folks that want to come in and then sell their plots. They might want to sell 2 or 3 of their plots, so they might have bought 5 as a family. They use 2, and family moves, and so they want to sell their 3 plots. So we really go through all kinds of hoops, trying to go through our paperwork and files from years and years ago. So this is really overdue, and we really want to make sure that we have an accurate accountability here for everything in it, and we can give information quickly. We certainly can find the information, but we want to be able to provide the information quickly.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions?
To the chair, this is Commissioner Culpepper.
Mr.
Hello,
Culpepper,
sir.
go forward.
Hey, Terry, how you doing?
I'm really good. It's good to hear your voice.
Always, my dear. Looking at the last CIP and this one, I see you've done a great job on not spending too much money, but we know eventually it's going to come.
Absolutely.
Okay, on the flip side, then let me say, great job on being able to reallocate that equipment, mainly the golf carts, from over at Beechwood to over at Evergreen. Great job on that, and see you getting a lot of traction over at Evergreen. So overall, great job on doing that, and just continue to do what you're doing and setting up the program so you make the citizens happy. So thanks, great job.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? Terry, again, I have a question. I think I saw on your introductory page two sections where you talked about including basketball courts, but I'm looking at your moving forward section for 2021 and 2022. I think 2023 is there also. I don't see basketball. Is that an oversight?
No, that'll be part of our projection going forward. 2021 and 2022 are really the highlighted years for basketball and tennis court. And the reason I say that is we really want to take an evaluation, especially out at both parks, especially Miller, if it doesn't make sense to have those basketball courts so close there, whether or not we're going to have to put fencing. We want to be able to approach them in a really smart way. So it won't all be complete this year, but it will extend into 22. I just didn't put it there as a highlight, but that's a good question, and I'd be asking the same thing. But yes, basketball will be a focal point until it's finished.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, any further questions? If not, Mr. Crowe.
Yep, thank you, Ms. Fields. To let the Planning Commission know that the Planning Department and Parks and Recreation will be meeting next week to discuss some questions for our public input on the master plan, which will help support some of the projects Ms. Fields is advocating. So we'll keep you posted on that.
I appreciate it, Terry. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
So our next section is pedestrian enhancements. Next slide, please. If Ms. Schultz is still on, our city engineer, we did give you one slide if you want to talk about any pedestrian improvements that are part and parcel to any of your road projects or anything else you would like to talk about, Lee.
Well, for our upcoming projects, not really any significant additions to our non-motorized, at least thus far. Sometimes we did get in a little bit more during the design phase. For our projects this year, just very, very modest kind of sidewalk gap filling that we're doing on 9 Mile over by the fire department by Laura Lane. in the freeway. We've got, that's less than 100 feet, but no big non-motorized capital plans at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. And if Mr. Bryce is available, I'll let him talk a little bit about some of the art installation and other projects we have going on in the city.
Hello, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I thank you all for having me. So it was kind of an unusual year last year with COVID. That being said, we did get a few installations completed. For instance, we did get Yin Yang installed at the corner of 10 Mile and Evergreen. We did get the City of Southfield installed on the front lawn. And it wasn't truly part of the Arts Commission, but we did get the Peace Pole installed on the front traffic circle as well. So the Arts Commission is continuing to identify locations for installations of art from the Northland Mall, as well as new art as they come in. So upcoming projects for this year, we do have 2 pieces by Detroit artist Hubert Massey. So one is going to be a series of frames of mosaics along LTU and the new pathway along their front lawn. These are community inspired and they are custom mosaics. We've seen some preliminary designs. We're very excited about it. So we're doing that in partnership with the city center. And then we also have a separate piece by him, an obelisk that's going to be installed in a location to be determined. So we're kind of running through our Northland art, but we're just continuing to put in donations and installations where we can. And we're still doing maintenance on existing art. For instance, we recently repainted Gratitude, which was in the traffic circle at Civic Center and Evergreen. So that's all I have for art at the moment.
Yeah, Kyle, I'm just going to piggyback. The city center just approved funding for a new commission piece by our partner Sign Graphics that'll be installed on Central Park Boulevard called Striving. And we'll share more details with you at a future date. And we've also retained the services of 3 young local muralists who will be working in conjunction with Lawrence Tech and our pathway near Evans Creek for 3 new murals this year as well. And we continue to work on identifying areas for shared use pathways, as well as working with engineering on filling gaps in our sidewalk system. Next slide. The map on the left was originally prepared and incorporated into our last master plan. And we've been working with GIS to keep that updated on all the projects that the city has undertaken. I believe we are now up to over 15 linear miles of new pathways that have been installed in the city. And we've broken it down based on whether it's a sidewalk, a shared use pathway, or a bike lane. And then we've identified about a half a dozen areas where we still have significant gaps in our pedestrian and bicycle network. These gaps are at least a half a mile up to 2+ miles long that we've incorporated into the capital improvements plan, and we'll be incorporating and identifying it into the master plan so that when funding is available or grants are available, that we can say that we've looked long-term towards these areas. And some of these will be done in cooperation with Parks and Recreation, and others will be done through the various committees and districts such as the Downtown Development Authority, the City Center District, or Centropolis. Next slide. And we had prepared a 5-year master plan for pedestrian enhancements along our pathways, specifically in the city center, because we had a dedicated funding source, and we are continuing to build out our system that helps with branding, placemaking, pedestrian amenities, and accessibility along our new pathway system. Next slide. And specifically, I wanted to point out some of the project areas that we've identified. The photo on the left, you can see a worn path, and we affectionately call that a goat path. And that's really showing you that pedestrians are using this pathway to stay out of the road, but to go from point A to B. And as much progress as we've made in the city to date, there still are significant gaps in our sidewalk pathway system where we have these goat paths. One of the last remaining pieces within the city center is southbound Northwestern Highway from Losser to Civic Center. And we've identified that as approximately 2,500 linear feet, or about a half a mile. We've done some preliminary cost estimates. We will need to get easements to do the majority of this work. Otherwise, we can do it, but in the right way, but significantly add to the cost because of the open ditches, which would have to be enclosed. But this is a project that's been on the radar of the city center district, and we're hoping that we can move forward on this last gap in the city center sooner than later. Next slide. Two other areas that have been identified. One is on the south side of 9 Mile Road, just west of Evergreen, Freeway Park. We have about a half a mile of green space that has no pathway system at all. And again, there is many pedestrians that are using that. I'm just walking along the green space. And we think that would link in nicely with some of the other improvements that the city's done. Another area that's been identified is on the east side of Berg, north of Shiawassee, up past Beechwoods Park to 9 Mile. There are some older pathway that's not in the best shape and probably about 5 or 6 feet wide. We'd love to be able to improve that to a full shared use pathway of 8 to 10 feet and fill in the gaps. From 9 Mile to 10 Mile is a lot more challenging because of some topographic elevation changes and bridges, but another area that would connect a major route from 10 Mile down to Shiawassee that has been identified in our master plan public input. Next slide. Slide to the left again shows a gap. That photo that you saw previously of the goat path is actually represented in the Southfield Road southbound from 9 Mile. And we also have identified Northwestern Highway, the Lodge, as having a significant gap in the pedestrian system, eventually tying into the DDA redevelopment and its future perimeter pathway system. Another project that would probably be done in cooperation with the Parks and Rec is the Rouge River corridor between 12 Mile and 10 Mile. It has some pathway system in there, but not a complete system. I believe the city owns over 80% of that floodplain corridor, and that would be a nice future project. The biggest challenge is getting pedestrians underneath the I-696 Northwestern Highway interchange, but that is a gem that I think the city should focus on in the future. And then there's some gaps on 12 Mile that's been identified as well. Next slide.
Terry, if we could go back to that one,
Sure.
this is Lee. I just wanted to mention to the Planning Commission, um, that corridor in green that would connect to the existing park properties, like through the mixing bowl. While that undoubtedly would have to be a pretty big grant project to make happen, it's like we do keep that knowledge in the back of our minds. MDOT is going to be reconstructing 696 in 22 and 23 between 275 and Lasser, and there are bridges they are replacing here. And we have worked with MDOT to make sure that they are designing those bridges to accommodate a sidewalk underneath, so that in the future, when hopefully we could get some grant money to get a pathway through there, that it would be easily paved in place, because they are creating that space for us, that level space under their bridge deck and adjacent to their bridge abutments.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Lee. That's a critical piece that make the rest of the trail a lot easier to complete if MDOT's going to be able to accommodate that. Next slide. I asked Kyle just to kind of cherry pick some responses early on in our public input in the master plan. This one question on non-motorized transit, I believe we had upwards of 78 responses, but this represents a consistent comments from some of the participants in the survey. Going for a walk in Southfield is frustrating experience, particularly with sidewalks ending abruptly and requiring crossing the street. And you know, basically saying that by adding sidewalks is creating a value add to the existing commercial development, walkable, enhancing property values of nearby residential neighborhoods. Another comment was we need to have more continuous sidewalks and better lighting. There's a lot of work to be done on the roads. Limited bike paths, we need more safe continuous bike paths. There needs to be less gaps in the sidewalk system and more lighting. Many of the neighborhoods have no sidewalks or inconsistent sidewalks. On the stretch of 12 Mile, no sidewalks that connect to other sidewalks. And I think one of Lee's road projects in conjunction with the Road Commission of Oakland County is going to take care of a major section of that. And they're basically saying with no safe direct access, I have no incentive to walk, bike, or take public transit. Again, one of the other comments is more continuous bike paths. So we've seen some positive responses to the work that we've done to date, but we also recognize there's a lot more that needs to be done. And I think that the public input is really supporting why we should be doing this. And as Ms. Fields alluded to, in the pandemic, we found that getting out and walking, socially distancing, getting some sunshine, getting some fresh air is good for physical heart health and also mental heart health. And I've had this discussion with the city administrator. You know, what can we do? Well, we can make our investment in the public realm. And that's where we have the most control over, and that's where we see the biggest benefit. We're able to leverage lots of different funding sources when we work in the public realm, whether it's MDOT funding, whether it's City Center Special Assessment District, whether it's Metro Acts, whether it's combining it with a road project and getting the federal government to offset the cost of some of this. This should be our continuous focus. And then once we get the infrastructure in place, it's really important that we support it with signage and branding, especially in our high density business and residential districts, and that we also support public transit. And as you know, the Planning Commission, on a case-by-case, site-by-site basis, we've encouraged and required bike racks, pedestrian connection from the main public walk to the main public entrance of the building, and other types of things that builds our pedestrian infrastructure. Next slide. And again, we use the city center as an example of where we've created 5-year master plans, and we're on year 5 on many of these improvements, but I'd love to be able to continue to do this citywide in some of our other sub areas. I know Ms. Freeman has been working to make improvements in the Centropolis area, and Ellis Evis has been working to make improvements in the DDA, but we're all part of a team that we know the benefits of having these facilities in our community. Next slide. And then just finally, the Northland master plan and vision, even though we've gone through our third developer, all incorporates public green space, pedestrian connectivity, placemaking, and creating a perimeter pathway system that will not only benefit the employees, the visitors, and the residents within the development, but all the surrounding development, like Providence Hospital and the residential neighborhoods immediately adjacent to Northland. And with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Mr. Bryce, who's going to talk about the transit improvement study that was undertaken last year and some of the targets that we have proposed. Mr. Bryce?
Yeah, thank you, Terry. So in late 2019, myself and Noreen in the planning department did a survey of the entire city. We looked at every single bus stop. We evaluated their condition, and we looked at what kind of fixtures they had. So we looked to see if they had a key walk. That's a bit of sidewalk going from the main sidewalk to the bus stop itself. We looked to see if there was any kind of concrete pad, if it had a trash can or a bench or a shelter. So we did a survey for every stop in the whole city. From there, we tried to look at how we can enhance all these bus stops and make them a bit better. Obviously, there's so many of them, we had to figure out a system to prioritize them. So we looked at some demographics that we attained from the US Census as well as SEMCOG. So we looked at some greatest population densities. We looked at densities of seniors, of people with disabilities and mobility issues, households with lower rates of car ownership. We were trying to think of who would really benefit from using bus stops that have been enhanced. So from there, we applied those demographic filters. We were able to prioritize all the bus stops in the city. So it's a little bit hard to see on this map, but you can see they're dotted throughout the city. They have different colors. So the red ones are our highest priorities. And these are the ones with, the greatest amount of need. They're usually near major roads and high population areas. And so we're looking to implement upgrades to these sites. So all of the high priority stops would get a full package, basically. They would get the key walk, they would get the pad, and they would get the full shelter. And then the medium ones would be upgraded so that they would have a bench and a trash as well as a pad. And then all of the low priority ones, we still want them to get at least a key walk just for accessibility issues, just so anybody can get from the sidewalk to the bus itself without having to go through some kind of bad terrain or rain and snow. So that's our bare minimum. So that's where we stand. It's a big project, but we're glad we've got the ground running for it.
And I'll just finish up making a quick comment about neighborhood entranceways, and then Mr. Bryson and myself will be happy to answer any questions. Ms. Lusk in our office did a similar study that Mr. Bryce had conducted for all the gateway entrances to neighborhood associations and neighborhoods, and came up with a priority list, preliminary cost estimates, and a proposal for a matching grant to the associations for upgrading their signage and landscaping at their entranceways, and projected that over a 5-year period. Now, Plumbrook Estates received National Historic District recognition, and we came up with a specific design. It's in the mid-century modern motif and color system. But this is just an example of how we can brand our individual identities of our neighborhoods within the city. So with that, we turn it back over to the chair for any final questions that the commission has on this specific presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Crode. Are there any questions from commissioners?
Yes, this is Geraldine Gunn.
Go ahead.
Mr. Crow, would it be possible to get copies of your pedestrian plans? It is hard to see what it is that's the master plan for the city center bike and pedestrian pathways.
Of course, these will all be incorporated into the overall master plan, but we will make sure that you have more readable versions of this prior to you making a recommendation after our next meeting.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
To the chair, Commissioner Culpepper.
Mr. Culpepper, go ahead.
A couple of questions for Kyle. Piggybacking off what Commissioner Gunn said, the bus stop evaluation, that's an eye chart. Right, could we, I think, Terry, you know where I'm going with this. Could we get that blown up and have the actual streets named on that so we'll know who's number 1, 2, and 3? Terry?
Yes, we have a detailed report that was prepared last year, and we'll make sure that Mr. Spence shares that with you.
Okay, we just want to know exactly where they are. Okay, second thing, question for Kyle. Kyle, I know you're gonna say something about, talked about the art installation. Are we gonna use anything from the Herbie Massey presentation that we did virtually, Kyle? Terry? When we do the art installation?
Yes, the virtual meeting that we had with Hubert Massey was the first town hall meeting.
Right.
And he's already working on concept plans that we saw preliminary designs for. We will be having a second virtual town hall meeting when he's going to present his preliminary designs. You'll have one more opportunity to weigh in. And we are lining things up with our contractor to have the concrete frames installed in the spring, summer. And then because of COVID, and this is a community build project, it's likely that we will schedule the actual installation of the mosaic pieces because we want to involve the community as well as students at Lawrence Tech sometime after August when the students are back on campus. So sometime at the end of August, early September will be the actual community build where we assemble the mosaic pieces and the design onto the concrete frames.
Okay, great. Final question. I know bike paths are a safety issue, and we want to make sure all the bikers are wearing their helmets and stuff. But is there any thought about putting maybe some type of art along any other bike path in a safe area? Any type of art along the bike path?
Well, we actually have 2 projects that have been funded. One of them is the Hubert Massey piece we just talked about that'll be installed along Lawrence Tech's portion of the bike path. And then the barrier wall that crosses Evans Creek is going to have 3 murals painted on it in the spring. And then the city center is also contemplating another commissioned art piece for south of Red Pole Park, just across from the bio retention area that was recently cleaned up and brought to its original design. And we have plans to continue art installations and placemaking along all of our trails.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm excited about this year's, some of the new pieces that'll be coming to fruition.
Me too. Thank you, Chair. That's all I have.
Through the chair, this is John Macrina. If I could make one brief comment.
I'm good. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I did review, and the slides that I submitted were not submitted in the appropriate manner. So first, I want to apologize to the committee and erase any question as to where the mistake was made. It was clearly made on my part. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, any further questions?
To the chair, this is Tony Martin.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Just as a bit of information, I downloaded the capital improvement program that we had the link for, and in going through that, through PDF, you can enlarge individual pages or sections and read the names of the streets and all the detail on the basically on the colored graphic.
Understood. I appreciate that. Commissioners, any further questions? Then hearing none, Mr. Crowe.
Okay, well, thank you. We got through this. I think we shaved about a half an hour off of our last time, but I appreciate your patience. I want to thank all the department heads for their time commitment as well as in preparation. This is our first discussion. I kind of treat this as the draft rehearsal. We've got a couple kinks to work out, and we'll make sure we incorporate Mr. Macrina's slides. And as we continue to move this through the pipeline, our next presentations with the Council Finance Committee on Friday, where I will be doing kind of an abbreviated presentation and have department heads available for questions. Then this will come back to Planning Commission in March for further study, where you'll have a more complete draft plan, and we'll provide some of the details that you requested. And then on March 24th, you'll have your public comment period and make a recommendation to council. And then finally, we'll do another presentation at the council study on April 5th. And then hopefully council will adopt this on April 12th. So we have a pretty aggressive timeline. And as we're doing this, as you're fully aware, we are in the midst of our master plan update. Some of this will be crossover, mutually beneficial to each other. I think the public input will help inform some of these capital projects in years 2 through 6. But if there's any other general questions, Mr. Spence and myself and the entire planning team are available to answer or to follow up afterwards. And again, I want to thank you for your dedication and commitment, especially giving up afternoon. But with that, I'll turn it back to the chair. Mr. Spence, do we have a public comment period we're required to do after final questions?
Yeah, we do. So we do want to make sure that we take advantage of that. So again, Mr. Chairman, if there are any other questions, we can take those now. Otherwise, we can move to public comment.
Floor is open for additional questions for anyone. Hearing none, then Mr. Spence, we're looking for public comment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you're aware, because this video is also shown on cable, there's a little bit of a delay between our conversation here and then what's shown online. So we do like to give the public at least a minute or so to call in should they have any questions, concerns, comments. Again, could be about the presentation that they had just seen. But if you do want to call in for public comment, we ask that you do that now. The telephone number and the event number are on the screen. Telephone number to call in for WebEx is 1-415-655-0001. And then when prompted, put in the event number 179-354-4682. And with that, Mr. Chairman, we'll give the public a couple of minutes. Again, if you do call in, we do ask that you give your name and your address for the record before moving on and making your comment. So with that, we invite the public to call in now. And I guess I'll just put a call out to those on the attendee list. Is there anyone who would like to speak during public comment at this time? And Mr. Chairman, it does not appear that we have anyone for public comment this evening.
Thank you so much. And at this point, we're looking at section 3 for minutes.
I'm sorry, sir, I missed that.
I'm sorry. Next section is minutes. Do you have any minutes for us?
No. The minutes will be sent to you next Friday before your regular meeting, which is on the 24th.
Thank you. Any items under miscellaneous?
Not at this time. This was a special meeting for the CIP, so we are not gonna keep you any longer than we need to. Thank you.
Understood. No other items, no questions, then I think it's safe to call this meeting adjourned.